トビデオ
Ichirō Itano. This man is a badass. Born on March 11, 1959 in Yokohama, Japan, Itano, like many of his generation, was exposed to the light of mecha early. An avid reader and watcher of Tetsujin 28 Go, he made it his mission to create giant robots and their stories through the power of art. He would get his chance very soon when he saw a recruitment ad for an animation studio while suspended from high school and decided to drop out to take the position. That would get him his first job as an in-betweener for Toei Animation's Planetary Robo Danguard Ace. From there, he would mostly either freelance or work with famed support studio Studio Cockpits. But then, he would be approached by fellow animator Mamoru Hamatsu to join him on this little anime project called Mobile Suit Gundam, and that would later get him on board with another little anime project called Space Runaway Ideon, and, well, history happened. Under the guidance of his mentors Yoshikazu Yasuhiko and Tomonori Kogawa, Itano became one of the most influential animators for mecha of his generation. Itano wanted to absorb the influence of animator Yoshinori Kaneda's kinetic animation style and have similar action be the way he expressed himself artistically. Prior to his involvement, conventional mecha battles were animated in a way to emphasize the heaviness of the machines, and were choreographed like duels between two giant humans, even in space. Itano, instead, chose to choreograph his mech battles to be more acrobatic, being reminiscent of dogfights with giant robots darting and weaving around each other, sometimes while firing a large cluster of missiles at their target in intricate intertwined patterns that almost resemble fireworks. This technique became known under multiple names. Some call it the Nato missile, other fans call it the Macross Missile Massacre, but most call it by his preferred namesake, the Itano Circus. The Itano Circus as a technique is the microcosm for Itano's contributions to the anime medium. His agile aerial combat combined with his free-moving camera work helped bring mecha anime into the 80s and made him a veritable rock star among his peer group. His legacy as an animator is completely secure. His legacy as a director, on the other hand, well, that's a bit spottier. On paper, Itano definitely seems like good director material. He clearly has an eye for acrobatic action and knows how to get the most out of his camera. He is also a great teacher in his own right, passing down his techniques and fostering homegrown talent like Hideaki Anno and Yasushi Maraki. And yet, a lot of his productions feel way more on the sketchier side of the OVA era. Having Violence Jack Evil Town on your resume would be a black eye to most. Today, we shall be talking about one of his productions, a production that embodies a lot of the good, the bad, and the ugly of Itano's filmography. Riki Kyoto is a high school karate champ with ambitions. He plans on dropping out of high school in order to pursue his true passion of smashing other high school dojos around Japan to prove that he's the best martial artist. And he's getting his start with his own karate club, defeating all the members, including the gigantic Captain Baba, as a way to tender his resignation, all while wearing a badass leopard mask.
After I finished with you, my study of unconventional techniques will continue. Then I'll be the best damn fighter in the entire world!
Though he is berated for his selfishness by his childhood friend Ryo, the rest of the school is in awe of Riki's audacity. But before he can kick back and bask in his newfound glory, time freezes and he finds himself confronted by an evil-looking dude called Lord Byodo.
You're the king I saw in my dream!
I thought it was only a matter of defeating you, but there is one thing I must confirm.
After fighting some minions, Riki gets possessed by the evil overlord, but not before the reveal that he's his alternate self from another dimension.
Oh shit, this guy's a total nutcase.
Too straightforward? It gets better. Meanwhile, in Earth's orbit, a group of space-time police officers in their satellite analyze Byodo's entrance and realize that he has brought enough energy to possibly change the future. So Captain Zankon, the police captain, beams down to Earth to investigate the potential anomalies. Still with me so far? While all that's going on, Captain Baba has been acting different since his own resignation from the karate club. Instead of being the honorable martial artist he was at the beginning, he's now hanging out with local juvenile delinquents and declaring that he will be taking over their enterprise.
It's a toy. You can't finish me with toys.
What are you, a fucking monster?
He then gets confronted by another person from another dimension called Toshimitsu Yuki, a samurai demon slayer. Baba then reveals he is now a demon that needs to be slain, which he soon is.
I never dreamed creatures existed that could transform humans like this.
Toshimitsu soon confronts Riki/KYOTO in a nearby park. At first, Toshimitsu will have none of it, but KYOTO, through Riki, calms him down by saying that he was actually tricked by one of his minions, Kain the Ferrymaster, into coming into this world and possessing his alternate self. And now he has to work with both Riki and Toshimitsu to stop Kain from using her fairies to infect mankind and turn it into a world of demons. You know, fairly standard battle shonen fare.
Wanna try me?
Oops, wrong one.
1987's Battle Royale High School, not Battle Royale, that's something entirely different, is wild. What initially looks to be your most basic example of late 80s ultraviolent OVAs in all its tasteless glory is something much more befuddling. On one hand, it's got some of the best people the anime industry had at the time working on it, crafting something that hoped to stand head and shoulders over the other chaff that clogged the shelves. On the other hand, a lot of that craftsmanship feels very shoddy in multiple areas, which results in the OVA feeling more bargain bin than it might have actually deserved. In short, Battle Royale High School represents both the best and the worst bubble era OVAs have to offer us, and having a legend like Ichirō Itano at the helm is just icing on the cake. What exactly do I mean by all of that? Well, school's in session, class. Let's begin our lesson.
Fuck that shit, I'll kick your ass!
Battle Royale High School is, surprise surprise, an adaptation of a manga. Probably not a successful one if my research indicates. The manga it was based off of, Majiden, or Legend of the Demons, was written by Shinichi Kurama, and it was published in Tokuma Shoten's monthly Shonen Captain magazine from May 1986 to August 1989. I say that it was probably not a title that set the manga world on fire because throughout its serialization, it was published very sporadically in each issue. Most damningly, my sources came up completely dry for any scanlations of the manga, only a handful of raws and that's it. Even then, this still might be Kurama's most well-known title. I looked up anything else he may have done of note, and the best I could come up with was that he did a Virtua Fighter manga centered entirely around Kagemaru. But hey, it's an ongoing manga with content that's too violent for TV, and we're still in the peak times for the OVA era, so an adaptation it shall get. Tokuma Shoten would be footing the bill, and animation production work would be handled by then newcomer DAS Corporation. This was Ichirō Itano's very own animation studio that he ran as an independent creator once he left Studio Artland in the mid-80s. Most of the work was production assistants on various anime from the 80s onward, and they only have 2 productions to their name that they produced solely on their own. This one and 1989's Angel Cop. And boy, do I dread the day when I have to cover that bad boy.
Don't look so surprised. I'm your fucking backup.
This is largely Ichirō Itano's work. He not only is the director, but he is also the main storyboarder and wrote the anime screenplay. But he wasn't the only big player involved in this. Character design was done by future legend Nobuteru Yuki. He and Itano were very close collaborators, with Itano mentoring Yuki on his first big break as the principal character designer for the American-Japanese co-production Bionic 6. He was one of the people who followed Itano from Artmate to Dast. Music was also done by future Evangelion composer Shiro Sagisu. He also had connections with Itano because he had also scored his directorial debut, Megazone 23 Part 2. That also led to Itano being able to call up studios like AIC and A3P to do finishing animation for Battle Royale High School. So this suggests that not only did Tokuma Shoten give Itano as much freedom in how he would adapt their manga, but they also allowed him to utilize most of his industry connections to get it done in time for its release on video that December. Does that freedom translate to a quality anime? I think the overall animation quality of Battle Royale High School can be summed up with this very first shot. It's a decent cut of a nameless student sprinting outside the school and heading over to witness Ricky's match. His movement flows well, and animator Satoru Utsunomiya adds great flourishes with how he slides into the frame and jumps from the stairs to get to his location faster. But something feels off. The keen-eyed viewer would soon catch that the character's jump is mistimed so that they jump right after they come down the stairs, and when they sprint over to the right side of the screen, you notice that they are walking on air, because the cinematographer forgot to pan the background up. This shot is the microcosm for Battle Royale High School's entire animation quality. Good animation that's hampered by sloppy in-betweens and photography errors. A lot of the most notable mistakes are front-loaded in the first part of the anime. For example, during Ricky's karate match, he easily kicks some no-name's butt with a stylish kick to the jaw. And after Ricky makes a celebratory flex of his muscles, the guy he beat starts flashing between cell layers with him without his shading before stumbling off into a nearby invisible room. It continues in the fight with Baba. Some shots show the characters moving kinetically with fine detail, other shots make the characters look like they're constructed with building blocks. But I shouldn't complain too much about the messier aspects, because even with that in mind, so much of the animation in this is really that good. Itano really knows how to pick them for animating his fast-paced action scenes. I am so not going to complain about the story just being an excuse to cram as many fights as it can in this, because the fights are damn good. You get to see artists like Kazuyoshi Yaginuma animate trees being uprooted and school hallways being ripped apart by explosions so masterfully, and the monster designs are excellently disgusting, as if they came from Junichi Watanabe's own sketchbook. Itano always dug adding cruelty and gore to his brand of violence, and adding monstrous creatures from beyond the veil really gives that creative muscle a workout. With people like Toshiaki Hontani drawing them, you get to really appreciate some good creature goop.
KYOTO, help me.
But if I had to pick out the best, and I mean the best shot of the OVA, it would be this one. So a girl named Mitsuko has the hots for Riki, which, through a series of events, leaves her vulnerable to possession by Kain. Later on in the anime, Riki soon encounters the same group of delinquents from the beginning, doing to Mitsuko bad things we can't show, and he defeats all of them once they also turn into demons. Riki rescues Mitsuko, and though she confesses her love, she still turns into a monster.
I wish that act had lasted a little longer. Bummer.
With the help of Byodo, Riki defeats the monster Mitsuko, but decides that he wants to restore her to her human form. This scene is worth the price of admission. Riki using Byodo's powers to reconstruct an entire human body from the various bits of gore and viscera lying around. Through some more of Hontani's animation, Itano combines his love of blood and guts with his love of stylish camera shots as a perfectly constructed human body is assembled, going from just a pile of intestines that eventually get formed into fully formed bits of muscle and bone before blossoming into a perfect human body. It is some of the most detailed gore I have ever seen in an anime, but it never registers as such, because the animation feels like something out of a medical textbook in the best way. It's scientific in its execution. So the good parts of the animation are good enough that they will make you overlook the sheer amateur hour mistakes that will crop up in this OVA. What about everything else?
Even though you're just lumps of meat, I'm not finished with you.
Now, hopefully you all have that summary I gave at the beginning fresh in your mind. It honestly would be hard to forget considering how crowded it is. Yes, it's a problem we all know and love on this show. An OVA having too much story and not enough time to let the events breathe. Quite possibly the most commonplace of all issues with this format. I don't know how different the events would play out in the manga since I don't have the source material, but multiple articles about this anime have said that it is compressing a lot of the manga into 1 hour, and not very neatly. I do empathize with Itano. Trying to cover what the manga has already covered while getting as many of the action scenes in there to keep things interesting does sound like a thankless job, and I don't think he even had the option to cover a shorter slice of the story because even though it would have been better paced, there was absolutely no guarantee that this would get a sequel. Battle Royale High School was commissioned as a one and done to get more people to read the manga. He only had one shot to make it count. To his credit, I do commend Itano for constructing an adaptation to have all the parts it needs to make for an interesting story. While the premise is complicated, it does set everything up in a timely manner that doesn't leave the story scrambling by the end. We do get insight on the characters' relationships outside the conflict, such as Riki's relationship with Ryo and Mitsuko's schoolgirl crush on him. On top of everything else, Itano does find time to fit in the insane parts of the source material. Example? Giant killer teddy bear.
What? A teddy bear?
And Itano does manage to find a good stopping point to make the anime feel like a complete story. After rescuing Mitsuko, Kain breaks out of the possessed Toshimitsu into her, now hear me out form. She knocks Riki out, but that only removes the limit breaker from Kyoto, who makes short work of her.
Kyoto, you bastard!
And we end on a comedic misunderstanding. Some plot threads are purposely left hanging, but overall it does feel like a proper stopping point. Still, it's a messy journey to get to that point. Thanks to the anime's story compression, a lot of events feel like they get skimmed over. Baba's possession feels like it needed to be dragged out more since he's introduced as a potentially important secondary character and one who is very cordial to Ryo. But the next time we see him shortly afterwards, he's currently beating down hoods and acting very ungentlemanly to the token Sukeban of the group. Yes, this is supposed to signal that he is no longer himself, but it happens so abruptly that it feels like we're missing a scene.
I just handed in my resignation. You see, I wasn't strong enough.
But it was all Riki's fault!
No, it was all mine.
Oh, but Captain Baba!
Sorry if I sound a little selfish. From now on, the gangs in this territory will answer to me.
Ironically, even with the compression, the narrative also feels kind of flabby, something I'm inclined to pin on the source material. This is felt big time with the characters of Zankan and Toshimitsu. Zankan, to his credit, probably has more of a role to play in the original manga, and we're just seeing only a small part of that role being played out. But he doesn't seem to really impact the story being told here. All he does is some light detective work, spar with Kyoto and Riki's body, give Kyoto a warning that is immediately brushed off, and turns into Signalman so he can job against Kain and Toshimitsu's body.
Oh shit!
Speak of the devil, Toshimitsu is a character who does have some importance, but also could have been better inserted into the story. It's through him we learn of Kain's evil plots, and he does get the ball rolling with the demon slaying. But that's really his only purpose. Unlike Zankan, we don't know where he came from or his motives beyond wanting to fight Kyoto as soon as the fairy problem gets under control. It's all rendered moot anyways once he jobs to Kain and gets possessed by her. He no longer is a character and no one comments on him once he's destroyed in the end. But yeah, that's pretty much Battle Royal High School and is exactly as I described it. Ichirō Itano's tenure as an anime director in the 80s is summed up in this very anime. He clearly has talent as an animator and storyteller that were so good it allows his worst excesses to be overlooked. Not always, but it's possible. Even then, he is not a miracle worker. Limitations brought on by the source material and the restrictions inherent with the direct-to-video production cycle was always going to work against this anime. Still though, Itano and his team's involvement did allow Battle Royal High School to be elevated from just your standard 80s schlock to a slightly higher caliber of 80s schlock. And with anime like this, sometimes that's the most you can hope for.
Wake up! Damn.
Thank you all for watching. If you like this video or want to support this channel, please donate to my Patreon. Each dollar can give you early access to my videos as they come out, as well as keep the channel running a bit more smoothly. You can also subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, or just like this video. Either way, you'll be helping me out. That's all for now. See you for the next round of tapes.
What? A teddy bear? This is unbearably weird.